My name's Tom Wheeler, and I'm just a regular guy from a small town in Ohio. I've been married to my wife, Sarah, for 7 years now. We've been together 9, ever since we met at a dive bar karaoke night back in 2016. She was belting out some old country tune, off-key, but with guts, and I was hooked. Life with Sarah hasn't always been a picnic, money's tight, we argue about dumb stuff, and the fire we had early on has cooled off some. I figured that's just how it goes when you've been hitched a while. You settle into a routine, right? Nothing crazy, just normal marriage junk. Lately, though, things have been weird. Our little neighborhood's been dealing with these annoying power outages. Something about the electric company upgrading the lines or whatever. Usually, it's no big deal. Lights go out for a couple hours, you light some candles, and wait it out. Last month, Sarah started nagging me about our home insurance. Said we ought to beef it up, just in case. We'd had a busted furnace last winter, and the car's transmission was on its last legs, so I didn't think much of it. Signed some papers to bump the payout to $400,000. Figured it was smart, responsible even. Then there's Jake Russo, the guy who moved into the house across the street about 8 months back. He's a widower, kind of a quiet type, always tinkering with his old pickup truck in the driveway. Decent enough fella, I thought. He'd come over sometimes, asking to borrow a wrench or shoot the breeze about baseball. Sarah took a shine to him right away, said he seemed lonely, needed a friend. She'd invite him for supper now and then, cook these big meals she never bothered with when it was just us. She'd even put on makeup and her nice jeans for those nights. I noticed, but I didn't say nothing. Didn't want to be that jealous husband, Anyway, this all started last Wednesday. Another blackout was scheduled for 5:30 p.m. I'd been planning to grab a beer with my buddy Mike after work, but he bailed last minute. Kid got sick or something. No sweat, I thought. I'll just head home early. Didn't call Sarah to tell her. My phone was dying anyway, down to like 3%. I rolled up to the house around 5:15, just as the power cut out. Whole street went dark. Our front door sticks sometimes, so I went around to the back porch instead. House was pitch black, but I could hear voices coming from the living room. Sarah's voice, low and giggly, not her usual tone. Then Jake's, deeper, kind of serious. I'm not the suspicious type, never have been, but something about it made my gut twist. Instead of hollering out like I normally would, I stayed quiet, easing the door shut behind me. The darkness hit me good as I stood there in the kitchen, just listening. That's when I heard it clear as a bell. Sarah said, once the insurance kicks in after his accident next month, we're free, Jake. Just you and me. Then the clink of glasses, beer bottles, I reckon, knowing them. Jake muttered something about making sure it looked right, and Sarah laughed, saying, oh, it'll be perfect. Tom won't see it coming. Another clink, like they were toasting to my coffin. I froze. My brain just locked up, like when your truck stalls out in the middle of nowhere and you're too stunned to cuss. My wife, my Sarah, was plotting to kill me. For insurance money. With the guy across the street. It hit me like a sledgehammer, but I didn't yell or bust in there. Something told me to keep my cool. So I slipped back out the way I came, got in my pickup, and just sat there in the driveway, staring at nothing. My hands were shaking, my stomach churning like I'd eaten bad gas station food. After maybe half an hour, I drove off. Didn't know where I was going, just needed to think. Ended up at the old bait shop by the river, grabbed a cheap lantern and some beef jerky, like I was prepping for a blackout I didn't know about. By 7 p.m., I headed back home, making sure to rattle the keys loud when I walked in. Called out, Sarah, you here? Like everything was fine. She answered from the living room, voice all chipper but shaky. I flipped on the lantern, and there they were, her and Jake, sitting on the couch, 2 empty beer bottles on the coffee table. Oh. Hey, Tom, she said, jumping up a little too fast. You're home early. Jake looked like a deer in headlights, muttering some garbage about stopping by to see if we had any spare batteries. I played along, handed them each a flashlight from the bag, acted like it was no big thing. Yeah, Mike flaked on me, I said, forcing a grin. Figured I'd join the blackout party. Jake made up some excuse and bolted not 5 minutes later, practically tripping over his own feet to get out. That night, sitting there with Sarah by lantern light, was the strangest damn thing. She kept fidgeting, checking her phone, smiling at me like nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, I'm watching her, knowing she's planning my funeral. She'd put on that lavender lotion she only uses for date nights. Guess who that was for? Not me, that's for damn sure. I made small talk about work, the weather, whatever, while my mind raced a mile a minute. Here's the thing, I'm not some genius. Never claimed to be. But I'm not dumb either. Confronting her right then would have just tipped her off, ruined any chance I had to figure this out. So I decided something that night, sitting there in the glow of that lantern, I was gonna play their game. Only I'd play it smarter. They think I'm some clueless schmuck that can offer a paycheck? Nah, I'm gonna turn this around on them. And they ain't gonna know what hit him. Next morning, I started watching closer. Sarah's phone's got a lock on it now, never did before. She's asking about my plans, real casual-like, but too much. And Jake? He's been dodging me ever since. I've got a feeling this ain't over. Not by a long shot. So, my name's Tom Wheeler, and if you're just tuning in, I found out last Wednesday that my wife Sarah and our neighbor Jake are plotting to kill me for a fat insurance payout. Yeah, it's as nuts as it sounds. I overheard them during a blackout, clinking beers and planning my accident like it's some casual weekend project. I didn't blow up at them, kept my head down and acted like I didn't hear a thing. Now I'm in survival mode, trying to figure out how to flip this mess back on them without tipping my hand. The next couple days after that night were like living in a bad movie. Sarah's acting all sweet, making me coffee in the morning, asking how my day was. But I'm noticing stuff now, little things I'd ignored before. She's glued to her phone more than usual, tapping away with this sneaky little smirk. Thursday, she asked if I was still going hunting with my brother Dave next month. Kept pushing it, saying I needed a break, some guy time. Funny thing is, she's always hated when I go off hunting. Used to nag me about it for days. Now she's practically packing my bags. Red flags don't get much brighter than that. Jake's been scarce since the blackout. Saw him out front once, fiddling with that beat-up truck of his, but he wouldn't even look my way. Yes, he's feeling the heat, knowing I walked in on their little toast. I'm not letting him off that easy, though. Friday morning, I strolled over, all friendly-like, and asked if he wanted to grab a burger sometime. Been a while since we hung out, man, I said, leaning on his fence. He mumbled something about being busy, but his eyes were darting around like a cornered raccoon. I just smiled and said, no rush, whenever you're free. Let him stew on that. Here's where I started getting smart. I ain't no detective, but I've watched enough cop shows to know you need proof. So I ordered one of those little voice recorders off the internet. Cheap one. Nothing fancy, but it'll do the job. Got it delivered to my buddy Mike's place so Sarah wouldn't see the package. Picked it up Saturday when I told her I was running to the hardware store for some bolts. Also grabbed a couple of those tiny motion cameras. You know, the kind hunters used to track deer? Figured they'd work just fine in the house. Set one up in the living room behind the TV, another in the kitchen by the spice rack. She'll never notice him. Saturday night, I tested the waters. Left my phone on the counter, unlocked, with a fake text to Mike about how I might skip that hunting trip. Dave's been flaky lately, I typed, loud enough for Sarah to hear me muttering. She perked up from the couch, pretending to scroll through her magazine. You're not going? She asked, voice all high and tight. Thought you were looking forward to it. I shrugged, playing it cool. Maybe. Haven't decided yet. Watched her out the corner of my eye, she looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Bet she was texting Jake 5 seconds later. Sunday, I got my first real break. Sarah said she was heading to the grocery store, but she took way too long, 3 hours for milk and bread. I checked the living room camera footage while she was out. Sure enough, Jake slipped in through the back door not 10 minutes after she left. They didn't waste time. She was whispering fast, saying, we've got to stick to the plan, but he's talking about skipping the trip. Jake paced around, rubbing his neck. We can figure something else out. Car trouble, maybe. Brake lines ain't hard to cut. Sarah nodded, real serious. Just make sure it's clean. That money's our ticket out. I sat there at the kitchen table, watching that video, feeling my blood turn to ice. Brake lines. They're serious about this. I didn't stop there. Monday, I called the insurance company from work, pretending I'd lost the paperwork. Got them to send me a copy of the policy. Turns out Sarah had it updated to name her as the sole beneficiary. Used to be split with my mom if something happened to me. That change was dated 3 weeks ago. She'd been planning this for a while. Also noticed she'd been asking about my work schedule lately, when I'm pulling overtime, when I'm driving the back roads home. Dots were connecting, and I didn't like the picture they made. Tuesday night, I found something else. Was taking out the trash, Sarah's chore, but she'd forgotten again. And there's this little plastic bottle in the can, half buried under coffee grounds. No label, just some white pills inside. Looked sketchy as hell. She walked in right as I was holding it up to the light, and her face went ghost white. What's that? I asked, casual as I could. She snatched it out of my hand, stammering, oh, just some old allergy meds. Must have tossed them by mistake. Bolted upstairs before I could say another word. Allergy meds, my ass. I'm betting it's something to knock me out before they stage whatever they've got cooking. I ain't just sitting around waiting to be roadkill, though. Wednesday, I moved some cash, about 10 grand we'd saved up for a new deck, into a separate account at a different bank. Told the teller it was for a surprise gift for Sarah, so they wouldn't flag it. Left just enough in our joint account to keep her from noticing right away. Also started locking my bedroom door at night, saying I've been snoring bad and don't want to wake her. She's sleeping on the couch now, which gives me some peace of mind. Thing is, I could just walk away, pack a bag, tell the cops, let them sort it. But after 7 years with Sarah, building a life, even if it wasn't perfect, nah, that ain't enough. I want them to pay for thinking they could pull this off. I want them scared, sloppy, tripping over themselves. So I'm keeping up the act, dumb old Tom, clueless as ever, while I stack my deck. Got the recorder in my pocket now, cameras rolling, cash safe. They're digging their own hole, and I'm handing him the shovel. Next move's coming soon. I'll keep you posted. Alright, it's me again, Tom Wheeler, still kicking and still dealing with the fact that my wife Sarah and our neighbor Jake are dead set on turning me into an insurance claim. It's been a wild week since I overheard them plotting during that blackout. I've got cameras rolling, a recorder stashed in my pocket, and most of our savings tucked away where Sarah can't touch it. I'm playing dumb, acting like everything's normal, but I'm done just sitting back. Time to start messing with them a little. Thursday morning, I decided to plant some seeds. Sarah's been on edge since I found that weird pill bottle in the trash. She's watching me closer now, like she's waiting for me to slip up and ask more questions. So I gave her something to chew on. Over breakfast, I casually mentioned I'd been having dizzy spells lately. "Dunno what's up," I said, rubbing my forehead like it hurt. "Maybe it's the stress at work or something." Her fork froze halfway to her mouth, and she stared at me hard. "You okay, Tom?" she asked, voice all fake worried. "Oh yeah, just need to take it easy," I said, shrugging it off. Watched her relax a bit, but I could tell her gears were turning. But she's wondering if those pills are already in play. Later that day, I swung by Jake's place after work, brought him a 6-pack of cheap beer, said I'd found an extra in the garage, and figured he could use it. He looked twitchy as hell, standing there in his driveway, but he took the beers and forced a grin. "Thanks, man," he said, shifting his weight like he couldn't wait to bolt. I leaned on his truck, real casual, and said, "Sarah's been acting funny lately. You notice anything?" His eyes bugged out for a split second before he coughed and mumbled, Nah, she seems fine to me." I nodded, all thoughtful like. "Yeah, maybe it's just me. She's been talking about you a lot, though. Keeps saying you're a good friend." Left it hanging there, let him squirm. He just grunted and said he had to fix something inside. Ran off like his pants were on fire. Friday, I upped the game. Told Sarah I'd heard a rumor at work about some guy getting scammed on his insurance. Cops found out his wife faked his death for the payout. "Crazy, right?" I said, flipping through the paper at the kitchen table. "People are wild." She choked on her coffee, tried to play it off with a laugh, but her hands were shaking when she wiped up the spill. "Yeah, wild," she muttered, avoiding my eyes. Planted that doubt nice and deep. Let her wonder if I'm onto something. That night, the cameras caught gold. Sarah waited till I was in the shower. Thought I was. Anyway, I just turned the water on and stayed in the bedroom. She snuck downstairs, and Jake showed up 5 minutes later. They kept their voices low, but the recorder in my jacket by the door picked it up. "He's talking about dizzy spells," Sarah hissed. "What if he's sick already? We can't risk it going wrong." Jake paced, boots thumping on the floor. Then we moved faster. "Hunting trips still the best shot. Nobody'll question a fall out there." Sarah snapped back. "He's waffling on going. We need a backup, Jake, now." They bickered for a bit, and I heard Jake say, "I'll handle it. Got a buddy who knows cars. Could rig something quiet." My gut twisted hearing that, but I smiled to myself. They're getting sloppy, and I've got it all on tape. Saturday, I took it further. Drove to the bank during lunch and, accidentally, left a statement on the counter when I got home. New account stuff, showing I'd moved $8,000 out of our joint savings. Sarah found it an hour later, came storming into the garage where I was messing with my toolbox. "Tom, what's this?" she demanded, waving the paper. I scratched my head, all confused. "Oh, that? Yeah, been meaning to tell you. Thought we should split some cash out, for emergencies. Furnace might crap out again." Her jaw tightened, but she couldn't argue without looking suspicious. "Should have talked to me first," she said, voice sharp. "Next time, I will," I promised, all apologetic. She stomped off, probably texting Jake about how their golden egg's shrinking. Sunday, I got physical evidence. Was cleaning the garage. Sarah hates doing it, so she didn't bat an eye, and found a greasy rag stuffed behind some paint cans. Smelled like brake fluid, and there were fresh stains on it, dark and wet. Jake's truck's been in the shop lately, but I'd seen him under the hood of my old Chevy the other day, saying he was just checking the oil for me. Bull. He's been messing with my ride, and that rag's proof. Snapped a picture with my phone, tucked it in a Ziploc bag, and hid it in my tackle box. Ain't letting that go. Monday, I called in a favor. My cousin Rick's a mechanic, knows his way around cars better than anyone. Told him I'd heard a weird noise under the hood, asked him to take a look on the down low. Dropped the Chevy off at his place after work, said I'd pick it up tomorrow. Rick texted me later that night. Brake lines were frayed, looked like someone nicked him on purpose. "You're lucky you didn't crash, man," he wrote. "Get this fixed pronto." I thanked him, told him to patch it up quiet-like. That's when I knew, they're not just talking anymore. They're doing it. Thing is, I'm not scared. Mad? Yeah. Hurt? Sure. 7 years with Sarah, and this is what I get? But scared? Nah. I'm in control now. They think I'm some dope they can knock off easy, but I'm building a wall of proof, tapes, pictures, bank moves, car damage. I could go to the cops, but I ain't ready yet. I want them to feel the walls closing in first. So I'm keeping the act up, good old Tom, bumbling along while I tighten the screws. Next step's brewing. I'm thinking about shaking Jake up direct, maybe get him to spill something stupid. Sarah's already jumpy as a cat in a thunderstorm. They're unraveling, and I'm just getting started. Stay tuned, this ride's about to get bumpier. Hey, it's Tom Wheeler again. Still here and still dodging the Grim Reaper my wife Sarah and our neighbor Jake are trying to send my way. By now, I've got cameras catching their whispers, a recorder full of their plotting, and proof they've been messing with my truck's brakes. I've moved most of our cash where Sarah can't touch it, and I'm playing the clueless husband like I'm auditioning for an Oscar. But I'm tired of just collecting evidence. It's time to stir the pot and watch him sweat. Tuesday morning, I kicked things off. Left a fake voicemail from my brother Dave on my phone, loud enough for Sarah to hear when I played it at breakfast. "Hey, Tom," I'd recorded him saying, "Hunting trips off, man. Twisted my knee at work. Maybe next year. Sarah was pouring orange juice, and I swear her hand jerked so hard she sloshed half of it on the counter. Dave's out, huh? She said, wiping it up too fast. Yeah, bum knee, I sighed, all disappointed. Guess I'll stick around home instead. Her lips twitched, and she turned away quick, fussing with the dishes. But she was itching to call Jake and figure out a new plan. That afternoon, I swung by Jake's place again. Caught him washing his truck in the driveway, perfect excuse to chat. Hey, man, I said, strolling up with a grin, you ever think about selling this old beast? I might need a backup ride. He froze mid-scrub, sponge dripping on his boots. Nah, she's still good, he stammered. I was darting to my Chevy parked across the street. Just wondering, I shrugged. Mine's been acting funny, brakes feel off. You know anything about that? His face went gray, and he muttered something about not being a car guy. Funny, I said, all casual, thought I saw you poking around under my hood last week. Left him standing there, soap suds pooling at his feet, looking like he'd seen a ghost. Wednesday, I cranked it up a notch. Told Sarah I'd been feeling off dizzy again, plus some stomach cramps. Might hit the doc, I said, rubbing my gut over dinner. Could be something I ate. Her fork clattered on her plate, and she stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You think it's serious? She asked, voice tight. Dunno, I said, poking at my mashed potatoes. Maybe those pills I found messed me up, who knows what they were, right? She laughed, high and fake, saying I was imagining things. But her eyes kept flicking to my plate, and she didn't eat another bite. Got her wondering if I'd swallowed something she didn't plan. Thursday night, the cameras nabbed another gem. Jake came over while I was out picking up oil for the truck. Really, I was parked 2 streets over, watching. They sat in the kitchen, arguing loud enough for the mic to catch every word. He's not going hunting. Sarah snapped, slamming a glass down. And he's talking about doctors. What if he figures it out? Jake rubbed his temples, growling. Then we do it sooner. I can rig the garage, carbon monoxide leak. Looks natural. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. Fine, but it's gotta be this weekend. I can't keep pretending. I sat in my truck, listening to that playback, heart pounding. They're desperate now, and desperate people screw up. Friday, I dropped a bomb. Came home from work with a printout from the insurance company. Showed I'd requested a policy review. Left it on the coffee table where Sarah couldn't miss it. She found it an hour later, stormed into the garage where I was sorting nails. Tom, what's this about? She demanded, waving the paper. Oh, that, I said, scratching my neck. Premiums are high, babe. Thinking we should lower the payout, or cancel it. Money's tight, you know. Her mouth opened, then shut, and she looked like she might puke. We need that coverage, she finally said, voice wobbly. Do we? I asked, all innocent. Seems like overkill for a couple like us. She bolted upstairs, and I heard her on the phone 10 minutes later, hissing at Jake about how it's falling apart. Saturday, I pushed Jake direct. Invited him over for a beer, said I wanted to talk man-to-man about something bothering me. He showed up, twitchy as a squirrel on a power line, and I sat him down on the porch. Look, Jake, I said, cracking open a can. Sarah's been weird lately. You two seem close, closer than me and her, even. Anything I should know? His beer slipped in his hand, spilling on his jeans, and he laughed too loud. Nah, man, we're just neighbors. She's nice, that's all. I leaned in, voice low. See, I think there's more. And I'm starting to wonder about that brake fluid I found in my garage. His eyes went wide, and he choked out. I don't know what you're talking about. Stood up fast, said he forgot something at home, and practically ran off. Seed planted, and it's sprouting fast. By Sunday, they're cracking. Camera caught Sarah pacing the living room, muttering to herself about needing a new angle. Jake texted her. I saw the screen flash when she left her phone out, saying, he's onto us. We've got to back off or finish it now. She didn't reply, just stared at that message for a solid minute. I've got him rattled, and I'm not stopping. Moved my truck to Mike's place. Told Sarah it's in the shop for those brake issues. Sleeping with my door locked. Cooking my own meals. Ain't taking chances with whatever's in that pill bottle. Thing is, I could end this. Call the cops. Show him everything. But I want more than just busting him. I want them to feel trapped, to turn on each other. 7 years with Sarah, and she's ready to trade me for a paycheck? Jake thinks he's some slick sidekick? Nah, they're gonna regret this. Next move's big. I'm setting a trap they can't wiggle out of. Stick around, it's heating up. Hey, it's Tom Wheeler back again, still alive and kicking despite Sarah and Jake's best efforts to cash in my insurance policy. I've been playing dumb for weeks now, got cameras rolling, recordings stacking up, and proof they've tampered with my truck. Last week, I turned up the heat, dropping hints and watching him squirm. They're jumpy as hell, and I'm ready to set a trap they won't see coming. Time to take this from defense to offense. Monday morning, I laid the groundwork. Told Sarah I'd been thinking about that insurance review. Said I'd called the company and canceled the policy outright. Premiums were bleeding us dry. I grumbled over coffee, watching her face. Her mug hit the table hard enough to slosh, and she stared at me like I just kicked her dog. You canceled it? She croaked, voice cracking. Yeah, I said, all casual. Figured we'd save some cash, maybe fix the roof instead. She nodded slow, eyes darting, then excused herself to the bathroom. Heard her on the phone through the door, whispering fast, Jake, no doubt, getting the bad news. Step 1. Kill their payday. Tuesday, I hit Jake where it hurts. Caught him outside, tinkering with his truck again. Guy's got a real love affair with that rust bucket. Hey, Jake, I called, strolling over with a grin. You ever hear about those home security systems? Thinking of getting one. Caught some weird noises around the house lately. His wrench slipped, clanging on the pavement, and he looked up, pale as milk. Noises, he mumbled. Yeah, I said, leaning closer. Like someone sneaking around at night. You see anything funny over here? He shook his head too fast, muttering about raccoons or some nonsense. Good to know, I said, patting his shoulder. Cameras should clear it up. Walked off, leaving him sweating bullets. Step 2. Make him paranoid. Wednesday night, I baited the hook. Left a notebook on the kitchen table, old fishing log I doctored up. Scribbled notes about feeling off, Brakes acting weird, and Sarah and Jake spending too much time together. Added a line, gonna talk to a lawyer if this keeps up. Made it look messy, like I'd been jotting thoughts late at night. Sarah found it when she came down for water, froze solid, reading it in the dim light. Didn't say a word, just slipped it back and tiptoed upstairs. Camera caught her texting Jake right after, fingers flying. Bet she was freaking out, thinking I'm building a case. Thursday, I reeled him in. Told Sarah I was heading out of town Friday night, last-minute work thing, driving to Cleveland for a meeting. Back Sunday, I said, packing a duffel bag real loud while she watched. You'll be okay here alone? Her eyes lit up, but she played it cool. Sure, Tom, I'll manage. Drive safe. Knew she'd call Jake the second I was gone. Thing is, I wasn't going anywhere. Dropped my truck at Mike's again, borrowed his old beater, and parked it down the street. Slipped back home through the woods out back, quiet as a deer, and hid in the basement with my recorder and a flashlight. Step 3, catch him red-handed. Friday night, clockwork. Sarah waited till 8 p.m., then Jake rolled up. I watched from the basement window as he parked 2 houses down, sneaky, but not sneaky enough. They met in the living room, voices low but clear on the camera mic. He's gone, Sarah said, pacing. This is it. Garage setup's perfect. Carbon monoxide, like you said. Jake nodded, pulling a hose from a bag. Rig it to the exhaust, crack the door, let it fill up when he's back. Cops think he passed out working on the truck. Sarah hesitated, then said, good. No payout now, but we can sell his stuff. Split town. They were past the insurance, pure desperation now. I crept upstairs, silent, and flipped on the lights. Hey, guys, I said, stepping into the room, recorder in hand. Sarah yelped, dropping her phone, and Jake spun around, hose dangling like a limp snake. Tom, you're supposed to be, Sarah stammered. In Cleveland. I finished, grinning cold. Nah, figured I'd stick around. Heard some interesting plans, though. Jake lunged for the door, but I blocked it. Bigger than him and madder than a kicked hornet's nest. Sit down, I growled. We're talking this out. They sat, shaking, while I laid it all out: cameras, recordings, brake fluid rag, pill bottle pics. Got enough to bury you both, I said, tossing the notebook on the table. Cops love this story. Sarah started crying, blubbering about how it was Jake's idea. She just went along. Jake snarled back. You liar, you pushed me into it. They turned on each other fast, spilling details, how she'd spiked my coffee once but I didn't drink it, how he'd cut the brakes but chickened out on finishing it. I recorded every word, standing there like a judge at a pig show. Thing is, I didn't call the law yet. Could've, but I had a better play. Here's the deal, I said, leaning in. You two leave town. Tonight. Don't come back. Don't talk to me. Don't even think my name. I keep this quiet. You disappear. Or I hand it all over, and you're done. Sarah nodded, tears streaking her face, and Jake just glared, but he knew I had him. They grabbed what they could and peeled out, her in her sedan, him in that damn truck. By midnight. I ain't done, though. Got one more move to lock this down. They're running, but I'm making sure they stay gone. More on that next time. Hey, it's Tom Wheeler again, still standing after Sarah and Jake tried to turn me into a ghost for some quick cash. Last Friday night, I flipped the script, caught him plotting in my living room, rigging a carbon monoxide trap in my garage. Showed him the mountain of proof I'd stacked up. Recordings, camera footage, that brake fluid rag, the works. Gave him a choice. Leave town for good, or face the cops. They picked running, tore out of here like bats out of hell by midnight. House went quiet, but I wasn't done. Time to clean up the mess and make sure they stay gone. Saturday morning, I took stock. Place felt empty without Sarah's stuff cluttering it up. She grabbed clothes, her jewelry, a couple bags, and peeled out in her sedan. Jake's truck was gone too, exhaust still stinking up the street when he left. First thing I did was check the garage. Sure enough, they'd hooked a hose to my Chevy's tailpipe, duct-taped it sloppy to funnel fumes inside. Tore it all down, snapped pictures of every piece, more ammo if I need it. Then I called my cousin Rick, the mechanic, asked him to swing by and double-check the truck. Fixed those brakes last week, he said when he got here. But this is next level crazy, Tom. He found a nick in the fuel line too, missed that before. Patched it up, shook his head, and told me I'm lucky to be breathing. Next, I locked down the money. Most of our savings, 10 grand, was safe in my new account, but the joint one still had a couple thousand. Called the bank, said I'd lost my card, got it frozen pinning a new one. Sarah been pulling cash lately, probably for their big escape, so she's cut off now. Checked the insurance too, cancellation went through clean. No payout for them to chase, even if they'd pulled it off. Felt good knowing their whole scheme's dead in the water. Sunday, I got nosy. Drove by Jake's place, empty, curtains gone, trash cans overflowing like he'd bolted in a hurry. Neighbor lady, Mrs. Carter, was out watering her flowers, so I asked if she'd seen him. Took off last night, she said, squinting at me. Looked rattled. Tom, you two have a fight? I shrugged, said we'd had words about some borrowed tools. She nodded, but her eyes said she wasn't buying it. Didn't matter, word had spread soon enough. Small towns love a good story. Monday, I went legal. Met with a buddy from high school, Greg, who's a lawyer now, small-time guy, does wills and divorces mostly. Showed him everything, tapes, pics, that notebook I'd faked to spook Sarah. Holy hell, Tom, he said, flipping through it. This is attempted murder. Easy. You sure you don't want the cops? Told him no. Not yet. Wanted him gone. Not just locked up. He drew up divorce papers fast, citing abandonment since Sarah split. She signs this, she gets nothing, he said, tapping the stack. House, truck, savings, all yours. She's got no leg to stand on. Gave me a restraining order draft too, just in case. Felt weird signing my marriage away, but after 7 years ending like this, had to be done. Tuesday night, the cameras caught something odd. I'd left him running a habit now, and around 2 a.m., a car rolled by slow, headlights off. Couldn't see the driver, but it parked near Jake's place for 10 minutes, then peeled out. Checked the footage close. Looked like Sarah's sedan, same dent on the hood from when she clipped the mailbox last year. Yes, she couldn't resist circling back, maybe checking if I'd called the law. Didn't sleep much after that, kept my hunting rifle by the bed. Ain't taking chances. Wednesday, I spread some insurance of my own. Called Jake's brother, Pete, who lives an hour away, decent guy. Never liked Jake much. Hey, Pete, I said, keeping it light, your bro took off quick. Left some stuff at my place, tools, junk. You know where he's at? Pete grunted, said Jake called him Saturday, ranting about needing cash and a place to crash. Told him to pound sand, Pete laughed. He's probably halfway to nowhere by now. I mentioned Sarah splitting too, casual-like, and Pete got quiet. You okay, Tom? He asked. Yeah, I said, just tying up loose ends. Dropped a hint about Jake owing me money, let that simmer. If Jake's dumb enough to show up there, Pete'll run him off. Thursday, Sarah broke silence. Got a text, no call, just a message. Tom, I'm sorry. Didn't mean for it to go this far. Can we talk? Stared at it for an hour, fingers itching to reply. Didn't. Saved it instead, forwarded it to Greg. She's fishing, he said when I called him. Don't bite. Makes her look worse if she fights the divorce. Smart man. Left her hanging, let her stew. She's got no money, no plan, and Jake's probably ditching her soon as he can. They're crumbling, and I'm just watching the pieces fall. Thing is, I ain't celebrating yet. House is mine, cash is safe, but there's a hole where 7 years used to be. Could have gone to the cops, watched Imran in jail, but this feels cleaner. They're out there, scrambling, knowing I beat him. One more play to seal it, though. Gotta make sure they don't slink back. Next move's coming, and it's a doozy. Hey, it's Tom Wheeler, wrapping up this crazy ride. Last week, I turned the tables on Sarah and Jake, caught him plotting to gas me in my own garage, hit him with all the proof I'd piled up, and sent him packing with their tails between their legs. They're out there somewhere, broke and running, while I've got the house, the cash, and divorce papers ready to roll. Been a hell of a month, but it's time to close the book and move on. Ain't quite over till I nail the lid shut, though. Friday morning, I made my last big play. Sarah's text from Thursday, I'm sorry. Can we talk? Was still burning a hole in my phone. Figured it was time to bait her one more time. See if she'd bite. Texted back. Meet me at the diner on Route 12, noon tomorrow. Just you. Kept it short, no promises. Called my lawyer Greg after, told him the plan. Smart, he said. Get her on record, but keep it public. I'll have the papers ready. Then I rang my buddy Mike, asked him to tag along quiet-like, sit a few booths away with his phone recording. Ain't risking her pulling something stupid. Saturday, I got there early, 11:45, diner half empty, smell of bacon grease thick in the air. Sat by the window, coffee in hand, watching the lot. Right on time, Sarah's sedan rolled in, dinted glinting in the sun. She stepped out, looking rough, hair messy, jacket wrinkled, like she'd slept in her car. Spotted Jake's truck parked across the street, engine off. So much for, just you. She slid into the booth, eyes red, hands fidgeting. Tom, she started, voice shaky, I messed up bad. Jake pushed me into it, I swear. I didn't want this. I let her ramble. She spun a sob story, Jake's idea from the start, her just going along, scared he'd leave her if she didn't. Said she ditched him, wanted to come home, make it right. We can fix this, she pleaded, reaching for my hand. I pulled back, sipped my coffee, and said, funny how you're sorry now the money's gone and the plan's toast. Her face crumpled, but I kept going. Got it all, Sarah, tapes, pics, your little garage stunt. Even the text you just sent. Cops eat this up. She went still, then whispered, you wouldn't. I slid the divorce papers across the table. Sign these, walk away, and I won't. You get nothing, house, truck, savings, all mine. Leave Ohio, don't look back. That's the deal. She stared at the papers, tears dripping on the table. 7 years, Tom, she choked out. Doesn't that mean anything? Meant plenty, I said, voice hard. Till you and Jake decided I'm worth more dead. Sign, or I call Sheriff Dan right now. Took her 5 minutes, hands shaking, but she scrawled her name. I nodded to Mike, he'd caught it all on video, then stood up. Jake's waiting out there, I said. Tell him I've got his brother's number. One wrong move, Pete gets everything I've got on you too. She bolted, didn't even finish her water. Watched her climb into Jake's truck, arguing already as they peeled out. Sunday, I tied up loose ends. Dropped the signed papers with Greg, he filed, Monday, divorce official in 30 days. Changed the locks on the house, sold Sarah's old junk at a yard sale, made $200 off her fancy shoes alone. Called Pete, Jake's brother, sent him a burner phone with a few choice recordings. Your bro's trouble, I said. Keep him away, or this goes wide. Pete laughed, said Jake crashed at his place Saturday night, begging for cash, but he'd kicked him out. He's gone south, Tom. Won't be back. Monday, I got a surprise. Sheriff Dan stopped by. Mrs. Carter, the nosy neighbor, had called in a tip about suspicious activity at Jake's place. Showed him the short version. Sarah left me, Jake split too. No big deal. He squinted at me, said, heard rumors, Tom? You sure that's all? I grinned, handed him a coffee. Just a messy breakup, Dan. Nothing worth your time. He nodded, let it drop. Small town law, gossip's enough unless there's blood. Week went quiet after that. House feels big without Sarah's chatter, but I like the silence. Started fixing stuff, patched the roof, tuned up the Chevy myself. Even hit the bar with Mike Friday night, first time in months I didn't look over my shoulder. Sarah's gone, rumor is she's crashing with some cousin in Kentucky, no money, no fight left. Jake's a ghost. Pete says he's dodging calls, probably broke somewhere downstate. They're finished, and I'm still here, breathing. Thing is, it ain't a win like in the movies. 7 years with Sarah, building a life, gone dash over some dumb scheme. Hurts, sure, waking up alone, seeing her old coffee mug still in the sink. But I beat him. Kept my head, played it smart, walked away with everything that matters. Therapist Mike hooked me up with says I'm resilient. Guess that's something. Even met a gal at the hardware store yesterday, Lisa, works the paint counter. Bought some deck stain, chatted a bit. Nothing big, just nice to smile again. So that's it, story's done. No cops, no jail, just me outsmarting 2 fools who thought I'd roll over. Life's simpler now, quieter. Got my truck, my house, a cold beer in the fridge. Ain't perfect, but it's mine. Time to start over, one day at a time.